Listen carefully, because this message is for the person who no longer recognizes themselves anymore, the person who used to feel alive, hopeful, emotionally open, but somewhere along the way became tired, disconnected, emotionally numb, and now sits alone wondering what happened to the version of themselves they used to be. Think about that for a moment, because life does not always break people. Loudly, sometimes it changes them quietly through disappointment, betrayal, emotional exhaustion, trauma, loneliness, pressure, rejection, and survival, until one day they wake up realizing they no longer feel connected to themselves at all. And what makes it harder is that most people around them never notice, because externally they still function. They still smile, still work, still show up, still pretend. Everything is okay, while internally they feel completely lost. Let that sit with you, because some of the deepest pain people carry is invisible. There was a man named Elijah, and Elijah had spent most of his life trying to be strong for everyone around him. Strong during heartbreak, strong during loss, strong during disappointment, strong while carrying emotional burdens nobody else fully understood. And over time, he became so focused on surviving life that he stopped noticing how much he was losing himself in the process. Think about that, because many people slowly abandon themselves emotionally while trying to survive what life keeps putting them through. And eventually survival mode becomes their identity. Elijah remembered who he used to be when he was younger, more hopeful, more emotionally alive, more trusting, more connected to his faith. But after years of emotional pain, something inside him changed. He stopped trusting people easily, stopped expressing himself honestly, stopped believing life would get better. And slowly he became emotionally exhausted in ways he couldn't fully explain. One night Elijah sat alone in his apartment after another long, exhausting day. The room was dark except for the faint light, the root, coming through the window, and for the first time in a long time he allowed himself to stop distracting himself emotionally. No television, no scrolling, no noise, just silence. And in that silence, a painful realization entered his mind. I don't know myself anymore. Let that sit with you, because there are people silently carrying that exact feeling right now. People who look functional externally, but internally feel disconnected from their identity, disconnected from peace, disconnected from who they used to be before life hardened them emotionally. And Elijah could feel the weight of that realization deeply, because somewhere inside him he knew he had changed. Not in healthy ways, but in survival ways. He became emotionally guarded, emotionally tired, emotionally distant from himself. And what frightened him most was realizing he no longer remembered what genuine peace even felt like anymore. Think about that for a moment. Because when someone lives in survival mode too long, chaos starts feeling normal, and peace starts feeling unfamiliar, and unfamiliar things often feel uncomfortable, even when they are healing. Elijah started reflecting on his life differently after that night. Memories resurfaced slowly, moments where he ignored his intuition, moments where he stayed in painful situations too long, moments where he kept giving pieces of himself away just to keep others comfortable. And for the first time he understood something painful. He had spent years trying to save everyone else emotionally while abandoning himself in the process. Let that sit with you, because many people destroy themselves slowly trying to become what everyone else needs them to be, and eventually they wake up emotionally empty, wondering where their identity went. Elijah began noticing how exhausted his spirit truly was, not only physically tired, but emotionally drained, spiritually disconnected, mentally overwhelmed. And one evening he fell to his knees beside his bed because for the first time in years, he no longer had the strength to pretend he was okay. And while kneeling there in silence, he whispered words he hadn't said honestly in a long time. God, I don't know who I am anymore. Think about that. Because sometimes healing begins the moment people finally stop pretending to be strong and become honest instead. And as Elijah sat there, emotionally broken, something inside him began softening, not instantly, not dramatically, but quietly, like years of emotional pressure were finally beginning to release, and suddenly memories from his childhood returned to him, moments where faith felt real, moments where he believed life had purpose, moments where he felt connected to something greater than fear and survival. And for the first time in years, tears fell from his eyes, because deep down he realized something important. He didn't completely lose himself. He buried himself underneath years of pain, disappointment, fear, and emotional exhaustion. Let that sit with you, because many people believe they are broken when in reality, they are simply disconnected from the version of themselves that existed before survival mode took over their lives. Elijah stayed on his knees for a long time that night, and in the silence he started understanding something powerful. Pain had changed him, but pain was not his true identity. Fear had shaped him, but fear was not who he truly was. Emotional survival had conditioned him, but conditioning was not the deepest part of him. And slowly he began feeling something he hadn't felt in years: awareness, presence, connection. And for the first time in a long time he realized healing was possible, not because life suddenly became easy, but because honesty opened the door to transformation. Think about that for a moment, because transformation does not begin when people become perfect. Transformation begins when people finally stop running from themselves emotionally. And over the next few weeks, Elijah started changing small things quietly. He spent more time in silence, more time reflecting, more time reconnecting with his faith, and slowly he began noticing how much of his identity had been shaped by fear, rejection, trauma, and emotional survival. He realized he had spent years becoming emotionally closed off because pain convinced him vulnerability was dangerous. And once he saw that clearly, he understood why he felt so disconnected from himself internally, because he had spent years protecting wounds instead of healing them. Let that sit with you, because people often confuse emotional walls with strength, but walls also block healing, peace, connection, and love from entering fully. Elijah started praying differently after that. Not rehearsed words, not perfect words, honest words, broken words, real words, and strangely enough, honesty brought him closer to peace than pretending ever did, because authenticity reconnects people with themselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And Elijah realized something else too. God was never waiting for him to be perfect. God was waiting for him to be honest. Think about that for a moment, because many people hide themselves emotionally even from God, as if honesty makes them weak, when honesty is often the very thing that begins healing them spiritually. And one afternoon, while sitting quietly in a small church, almost completely empty except for flickering candles and silence, Elijah felt something he hadn't experienced in years: peace, not loud excitement, not emotional intensity, just quiet peace. And tears filled his eyes, because he realized how long it had been since he truly felt calm internally. And in that moment he understood something powerful. Healing often arrives quietly, slowly, gently, not dramatically, not all at once, but one honest moment at a time. Let that sit with you, because people often expect healing to feel explosive, when many times healing feels like finally being able to breathe again emotionally. Elijah started changing the way he lived after that. He stopped forcing himself to stay connected to environments that drained his spirit, stopped ignoring his intuition just to avoid disappointing others, stopped pretending he was okay when he wasn't, and little by little he started reconnecting with himself again. Through silence, through prayer, through reflection, through honesty. And although the process was emotional, something inside him was finally beginning to soften after years of emotional hardness. And the deeper Elijah went into that honesty, the more emotional things became. Because once someone finally stops distracting themselves long enough to truly look inward, they begin realizing how much pain they normalized without ever truly healing from it. Little things at first, the constant tension sitting in their chest, the exhaustion behind their smile, the way they automatically expected disappointment before anything even happened. And Elijah realized he had spent years emotionally preparing himself for pain before life even had the chance to unfold. Think about that for a moment, because there are people who wake up every day already emotionally bracing themselves for stress, rejection, loneliness, heartbreak, failure, and after enough years the nervous system begins treating survival mode like home. Let that sit with you, because people can become so accustomed to emotional chaos that peace starts feeling unfamiliar to them, and unfamiliar things often feel uncomfortable, even when they are healing. Elijah noticed that clearly one morning while sitting quietly beside his window, watching rain fall against the glass. There was nothing wrong in that moment, no crisis, no pressure, no argument, no emergency. But internally he still felt restless, anxious, emotionally unsettled, and suddenly he realized something painful. His mind had forgotten how to feel safe emotionally. Think about that, because trauma does not always disappear when circumstances improve. Sometimes the body continues carrying fear long after the danger itself has ended. And Elijah began understanding why he felt so disconnected from himself, because he had spent years surviving emotionally instead of living fully, years suppressing emotions instead of processing them. Honestly, years pretending to be strong instead of allowing himself to heal. And eventually the soul becomes exhausted carrying pain that never had a chance to fully leave. One evening, Elijah drove back to the neighborhood where he grew up, something he hadn't done in years, and as he slowly passed familiar streets, memories began surfacing inside him unexpectedly, memories of who he used to be before life became so heavy emotionally, before disappointment hardened him, before betrayal taught him to emotionally close himself off. And while sitting parked outside the old basketball court where he spent time as a teenager, tears quietly filled his eyes because suddenly he remembered the version of himself he had lost connection with, hopeful, trusting, emotionally open, spiritually grounded. And in that moment, he realized something heartbreaking. Somewhere along the way, survival replaced authenticity. Let that sit with you, because many people become versions of themselves built around protection instead of truth. Protection from pain, protection from rejection, protection from vulnerability. And over time, those emotional walls grow so strong people stop recognizing themselves underneath them Elijah sat there for a long time that night, thinking about all the moments he slowly abandoned himself emotionally, the relationships where he ignored his intuition, the situations where he stayed silent when he should have spoken honestly, the moments he tolerated emotional disrespect because loneliness frightened him more than suffering did. And for the first time he admitted something painful to himself. He had spent years seeking love from people while completely disconnecting from himself internally. Think about that for a moment, because many people spend their lives searching for validation externally while neglecting the relationship they have with themselves spiritually and emotionally. And eventually that disconnection creates emptiness no amount of attention, success, or distraction can fully fill. Elijah started noticing something else too. He had become emotionally numb in ways he never intended. Things that once moved him emotionally barely affected him anymore. Conversations felt empty, routines felt meaningless. Even moments of happiness felt temporary and distant. And at first he thought something was wrong with him. But slowly he realized emotional numbness was not who he truly was. It was what happened after years of emotional overload. Think about that, because when people carry pain too long without healing, the mind sometimes disconnects emotionally as protection. And while that protection may temporarily reduce pain, it also reduces joy, peace, connection, and emotional presence. And Elijah realized now why so many people walk through life feeling spiritually exhausted without fully understanding why they are emotionally surviving instead of truly living. One night Elijah stayed awake until almost sunrise, sitting alone in silence. And during those quiet hours he started reflecting on every version of himself he had become over the years. The version that tried to make everyone happy, the version that suppressed emotions to appear strong, the version that accepted less than he deserved because he feared abandonment. And suddenly, he understood something powerful. None of those versions were his true identity. They were survival responses, emotional adaptations created through pain, fear, rejection, and disappointment. Let that sit with you, because there is a difference between who you truly are and who survival taught you to become. And healing begins when people start recognizing that difference honestly. Elijah began praying more deeply after that, not only asking God to remove pain, but asking for clarity, asking to reconnect with himself spiritually, asking to understand who he truly was beneath all the fear and emotional conditioning. And slowly his relationship with faith began changing too, because for years Elijah believed faith meant pretending to be okay, pretending to be strong, pretending not to struggle emotionally. But now he realized something different. Faith was not pretending. Faith was honesty, surrender, vulnerability, trust. And once he understood that, prayer started feeling real again instead of performative. Think about that for a moment, because many people hide themselves emotionally, even from God, as if honesty makes them weak, when honesty is often the very thing that begins healing them spiritually. And one afternoon, while sitting quietly in a small church almost completely empty, except for flickering candles and silence, Elijah felt something he hadn't experienced in years: peace, not loud excitement, not emotional intensity, just quiet peace. And tears filled his eyes because he realized how long it had been since he truly felt calm internally. And in that moment he understood something powerful. Healing often arrives quietly, slowly, gently, not dramatically, not all at once, but one honest moment at a time. Let that sit with you. because people often expect healing to feel explosive when many times healing feels like finally being able to breathe again emotionally. Elijah started changing the way he lived after that. He stopped forcing himself to stay connected to environments that drained his spirit, stopped ignoring his intuition just to avoid disappointing others, stopped pretending he was okay when he wasn't. And little by little, he started reconnecting with himself again, through silence, through prayer, through reflection, through honesty. And although the process was emotional, something inside him was finally beginning to soften after years of emotional hardness. One evening, while walking alone beneath the city lights, Elijah suddenly realized something that changed him deeply. He had spent years blaming himself for changing emotionally, but anyone carrying that much pain would have changed too. Think about that for a moment, because many people are cruel to themselves for becoming emotionally exhausted without acknowledging how much they endured silently, and self-compassion became part of Elijah's healing after that, because he realized healing was not only about becoming stronger, it was also about becoming gentler with himself emotionally. And slowly the shame he carried for feeling lost began fading, because he finally understood he wasn't weak for struggling. He was human. And there are people listening to this right now who need to hear that too. You are not weak because life affected you deeply. You are not broken because pain changed you emotionally. You are not failing because you feel disconnected from yourself sometimes. Healing takes time, awareness takes honesty, and reconnecting with yourself after years of emotional survival is a process, not a single moment. Elijah began noticing beauty again after that. Small things most people rush past without noticing: sunlight through clouds, peaceful silence early in the morning, meaningful conversations, music that touched his spirit again. And for the first time in years, he felt emotionally present inside his own life, instead of disconnected from it. And maybe that's what healing truly is, not becoming a completely different person, but slowly returning to yourself after years of emotional distance. Think about that, because somewhere underneath the fear, underneath the pain, underneath the emotional exhaustion, the real you still exists, waiting patiently to be rediscovered. And Elijah understood that now more than ever, because although life had changed him, pain had shaped him, and survival had hardened him, none of those things had fully destroyed the person he truly was underneath it all. And once he realized that, hope returned quietly into his life again. Not fake positivity, not pretending, real hope, grounded hope, healing hope. And maybe someone listening to this tonight needed that reminder too, that no matter how disconnected you feel from yourself right now, you are not beyond healing, you are not beyond peace, and you are not too far gone to reconnect with your spirit again. And if this message connected with you tonight, if somewhere deep inside these words reached a part of you that has been quietly struggling, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this journey, because Voice Without Ego is not only a channel, it's a space for people trying to heal, grow, reconnect with themselves, and remember who they truly are beneath the pain and pressure life placed on them. So if you enjoy conversations like this, make sure you like the video, comment your thoughts below, subscribe. Voice Without Ego, and come back for more, because there's so much more ahead, more healing, more awareness, more conversations, and more reminders that you are never truly alone in what you're feeling. Thank you again for listening. Thank you for walking this journey with me. And until next time, protect your peace, reconnect with yourself, and never stop becoming who you truly are.